Welcome back to another Wednesday night real estate recap where we talk about everything to do with the housing market and some other stuff. Tonight is the night before Thanksgiving, so I wish you all a very, very happy Thanksgiving, whether you're watching this tonight or tomorrow or this weekend. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, lots of turkey, lots of food, lots of fun, lots of football, whatever makes you happy. I hope that's what happened. We got a great stream for you tonight. I'm going to bring on my guests in a second because Zillow just came out with their 2025 housing market predictions. So we're going to go through them all and we'll give you our opinions on them. So let's bring my guest out. His name is Joe Pareca. He is in California, so he's on the other coast. He's been a real estate agent for over a decade, works in the LA County area, concentrating in the foothill communities. Born and raised in the LA suburbs, and he specializes in buyer representation. So let's bring him on. Hey, Joe.
Hi, Caryn.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm just, how I am. Sorry, but before we got on the live, I was telling Joe I've had a terrible day, but it's all good now.
You're doing great, and we're going to have a great stream. That's how we're doing today.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving. I want to say happy Thanksgiving to you. What are you doing for Thanksgiving?
I am hosting Thanksgiving this year for my family. So earlier today, I like 30 minutes before this, I was literally like running around with my house with my head cut off. Like I'm cleaning everything, I'm vacuuming, I'm doing all the stuff. So a lot of the family's coming over, having the traditional Thanksgiving meal, going to watch a ton of football. And Thanksgiving is, like, in my opinion, it's one of my favorite holidays of the year. Like, it revolves around eating and family. Like, how does it get better than that, right? So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Thanksgiving's always been my favorite holiday because it's not about religion. It's just about family and friends and football and food and wine. What more do you want?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Are you cooking?
I am. Thankfully, I'm not cooking. My wife and her sister and her mom are doing a majority of the cooking, but we do the smart thing. We're like, hey, everybody bring something. So it's kind of like a potluck. So we don't all have to make like everything. Usually somebody brings like a dish for each thing and makes it a lot easier for people. So
yeah, for sure. I actually like cooking for Thanksgiving. I'm not this year. We're going to my brother's, but for some reason I like doing the whole thing. I'll do it for Christmas. I'll do the whole turkey and all the sides, but
oh, cool.
I kind of like it. I don't know. It's like an accomplishment, like doing it all.
Yeah,
having it come out on time and like it all actually tastes good. So it works. Let me see. We got some people on here already. Yay. Let's see. And then I will get to the article. Hi, Sean. Any neighborhoods close to Rockville that aren't expensive as hell? So Joe, so I'm in Montgomery County, Maryland, right outside of DC. And so Rockville is one of the cities in Montgomery County. There are some, first of all, what do you consider expensive? It's my first question. And there are some more affordable housing, even in Rockville. It just depends on what your criteria is, what you're looking for, what your expectation is what I should say. So if you want to know more, definitely send me an email. All my information is in the description of every video I do. And we can talk more about the specifics of what you're looking for in Rockville and where there are more affordable options. There are, like I said, it's all relative. I don't know what you consider affordable. You might not think they are, but definitely compared to other parts of Montgomery County, there are some in Rockville and some in Gaithersburg and, other parts of the county. So yeah, but let me know and we can talk about that. David, good evening. David. Good evening. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, David.
And don't forget about football. Well, we can't ever forget about football.
That's important. That's one of the most important things about tomorrow.
Although I do have to say, I am in Washington and we have a love-hate relationship with football here. We loved it for a while back in the day.
Yep.
And then we hated it for a while, for the last 20 years.
Well, I'm in LA. So for up until like 3 seasons ago, I didn't have a football team growing up. So football was like not a thing because the Rams left in like the late 90s. And I was, 7 or 8 years old at that time. So, but since they've been back, my wife and I, big Rams fans, and it's gotten us both kind of back into football. So I understand the kind of the love-hate thing, because for a long time I was like, I don't care. I don't have a team. But now we got the Rams again, and we got the Chargers, but I'm a Rams fan. So
you need to understand Washington's history to really understand. We've always had a team. We were just really, really bad for a while. And then we had a really terrible owner. Sorry. Hope you don't Sue me, but you were terrible. Now we have good owners and a new name and a great quarterback. And we were doing really well. And now we're not. So let's talk about real estate.
Let's.
Let me bring up this article. Hang on, what's happening? Okay. Okay, so Zillow just came out.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, Zohan Smith. I appreciate that. Thank you. So they just came out. This just came out 2 days ago. Yeah, the 25th. So this is their housing market predictions for 2025. And they break it down into different categories. So I'm just going to read the first one and we'll talk about it. And then we'll move on and see if anybody on has any questions. And if you're watching this on the replay, you have any questions for me or for Joe or about these predictions or anything to do with the housing market, just put it in the comments and we will definitely get back to you.
Yep.
Okay. So this is by Skylar Olson. Mortgage rates are once again in the spotlight as 2025 approaches. A short-lived dip to 2-year lows prompted renewed optimism for home buyers before the rise in October brought a reminder of their unpredictability. Buying a home in 2024 was surprisingly competitive given how high the affordability hurdle became. Buyers can expect a bit of extra breathing room in 2025 with more inventory looking set to shake loose. Zillow predicts a more active housing market and more buyers gaining the upper hand in 2025, but those hoping to buy or even refinance should buckle up for a bumpy ride and stay ready to move when conditions are right. Rent affordability is on track to improve next year as long as wages continue to grow after a construction boom has eased pressure on rent prices. That's a lot, even in the opening paragraph.
It is.
But let me just go into to home prices or housing market activity, and then we'll talk about that before I go into. Actually, this is home prices. Okay. So expect to see more sales and only modest home value growth in 2025 as the market slowly becomes unstuck. Here it is. Zillow forecasts 2.6% home value growth in 2025, a relatively slow pace that is similar to this year's growth. For existing home sales, Zillow forecasts 4.3 million in the coming year, up slightly from 4.1 million in 2023, and a projected 4 million in 2024. While affordability challenges will remain, buyers should expect more homes on the market, meaning more time to consider their options and more leverage in negotiations. I want to talk about that. They go into mortgage rates and all kinds of stuff, but we'll get back to this. But first, before we do, they're talking, they're saying a lot, and it's funny because I don't know about you, but a lot of times when I read these articles from these experts, I get excited. Like a lot of people like, okay, here are the predictions and they're going to base it on data and facts. And even in this short opening paragraph and then their home price prediction, they contradict themselves.
Yep.
They're like, buyers are going to be better off, and yet it's going to be a bumpy ride, and there will be more sales.
Yep.
But it's going to be more than 4 million, which is the lowest sales in 30 years. Like, what's your take?
I think that, that's something that's not uncommon for a lot. I mean, anytime you read any, major outlet, especially when it comes to real estate, because again, we have to remember, these types of real estate predictions are for a national market prediction. And it's really important to remember that real estate is hyper local. And while we can kind of get an idea of what the trends might be, or there could be good data to make an educated guess at what the housing market might do, it's really important to realize that at the end of the day, everybody still needs to remember that no matter what, whenever real estate is the topic, the very first thing you have to remember is hyper local, right? So unless you're reading an article that's specifically about, for instance, I'm in Southern California.
Yeah.
You're in DC. We're in two completely different markets across the nation from each other. How is a Zillow national prediction going to apply to both of us equally? The answer is it's not going to. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. Secondly, the reason I think that when it comes to specifically the 2025 housing predictions, like the one that we've just scratched the surface of here on the Zillow article, I think the reason that they're so murky and unclear and lack a bit of direction is simply because we are coming off of an election year. We have a new administration coming into office. And this is nothing about Trump or Biden or Harris, none of that. It wouldn't matter who the administration is. The fact of the matter is we have a new administration coming in, and we don't know how their policies are going to affect housing, the economy, financial markets, and all of those things go into play. So I really feel like things are a bit murky right now because of those things. And that's why we don't have any real clear predictions. We don't really know what's going to happen. And especially when it does come to our incoming administration, they've been very open and honest. They're going to shake things up when it comes to the economy and potentially housing. And that just means that people are like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not sure what's going to happen.
They say that. That's true. My experience, and I'm from DC and deal with a lot of people in that business. Nothing happens fast.
Right.
Let me ask you a question. So what's happening in your market and out in and I say California, it's a big state, specifically where you are in Los Angeles.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, for kind of the people that are just joining us, I'm out in the suburbs of Los Angeles. So my town, I'm from Claremont, California. I live in Claremont, California, and I've grown up this area my entire life. And just for some reference, the market that I work, basically it's about 45 miles east of LA. It's the last LA suburb before you get out of the LA suburbs officially. And it's been very active through October, November, and into December So I right now I just opened an escrow today. I just closed an escrow about 2 weeks ago. I have other people that are just waiting to make an offer when the right property comes up, which could be a week or two from now. So I'm definitely seeing more encouraging signs, because about a month ago, I thought November and December were going to be very quiet.
Do you have a lot of inventory out there for the buyers to choose from? I mean, you seeing more inventory?
It's getting better. We're getting a little bit more inventory. We're seeing some sellers come off their pricing a little bit. The thing that we're seeing most is we're, at least this time of year, and this is why I tell buyers, like, if you're in a good spot financially, if you're ready to buy a home, September, October, November, December is a great time to buy, because the bidding war scenario is almost non-existent right now.
Oh, really? So you're not seeing multiple offers on properties? Because I still am.
Yeah, sometimes it depends on the property. Like the one that I closed earlier this month, there was a total of 4 offers. And for here, that's that's not crazy, right? The one that I just got into escrow on today, we were the only offer. So it really depends. Now, the one that I got into escrow on today, that is a condo in a condo complex that is pretty big. And there's about 4 available listings in that complex. So of course, that's going to make things a little bit easier because the competition is going to be lower on the buy side. Right. But overall, my firm, when we list a house, it sells within 1 or 2 weeks. We just had a listing that took 27 days to close, or 27 days to go into escrow. And we were like, whoa, 27 days, like what an eternity. And the historical average is 2 to 3 months to get into escrow.
So why did that house take longer? Was it that a condo as well, or a single family home?
That was a single family home. And it had a decent location on a cul-de-sac. Curb appeal wasn't amazing. It was a good home. It was nothing special. It was just a nothing special home. It was pretty generic. Could have used a little bit of updating. And the price was just a touch on the high side. As soon as we reduced, I think we reduced it 10 or 15 grand, it went.
So that's what I tell people when they ask me about, the housing market and what, because I always say it's a mixed market where I am. It is. I mean, there are literally houses, even now, like you, since the election, I think activity has really picked up. I think people were a little frozen for about a month, and now things are picking up. But there can be 2 houses in the same neighborhood here, and one can sell on multiple offers and one can sit on the market. And it really depends on how it's priced and how it looks. How the condition, I should say.
100%. You're 100% correct. And we have that same phenomenon. So it's funny because I say hyper local, like, I'm not even talking just about state. I'm not even talking about just county. I'm not even talking about just city. Like in my city alone, which is a small city of 35,000 people, it's so hyper local that one neighborhood pocket is still selling better than another neighborhood pocket just a few blocks away. And it's very minor differences. But buyers have the ability now to be a little bit more picky with things because it's moving a little bit slower. And so it's just interesting how the little things matter when it comes to the buying or selling of a property, regardless of the market or the time of year.
I'm going to push back a little bit. I don't think that buyers are being more picky because they have more time to do that. I think buyers are fed up. Money's more expensive.
Yes.
And they've been through, if they've been in this a while, they've been through all these like crazy markets where they couldn't even get in to see a house and the house was gone. And that's when money was cheaper. Now money is more expensive and there's still not a lot of inventory. And I think they're fed up. And I think they're like, if I see the value, I will write an offer. But if I don't, just because it's on the market, I'm not doing it. You know?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Exactly.
Yeah. So Slipping Jimmy says, sorry, I can't see without my glasses. I pretend like I can, but I can't. Everyone here knows that. Hyper local, does that involve schools, commutes, job market? So he wants to know when you say hyper local, like does that get into all that stuff as well?
Yeah, I would say on the surface level, no, but on a deeper level, absolutely, Jimmy. Yeah. Typically when I advise people that watch my streams or my videos or my clients, and I say, you just keep in mind, it's hyper local. I'm talking about if you see a story on MSNBC or whatever your news choice or whatever online article you read, and it's just a real estate is doing this, just keep in mind that that's an average over the nation, and states vary from state to state. It varies from county to county, just like I was talking about. So you just have to keep that in mind when you hear anything related to real estate news or predictions or developments. Yeah. So for instance, you might say, oh, Zillow says that, what was it, 2.6% home value growth in 2025? Here in LA, it could be 4%. and in Texas, it might be -1%, right? So it's just averages. So just keep in mind when you're hearing about real estate, it's good to be aware of the macro trends, but also it's different when it gets local.
Yeah, I mean, they're forecasting 2.6% home value growth, like you said, nationally. And so it's different everywhere. But the national number of the 4.3 million, that does reflect, in my opinion,
it does,
price, because it's all about supply and demand. Now, every market's different. And if you more inventory in one particular location, obviously your supply is going to outweigh not obviously, but potentially your supply will outweigh your demand.
Yeah.
But that's just not a lot of sales.
No,
it's just not. 4.3 million is not a lot. And that's what they're forecasting. I don't know if they're going to be right. I think we're going to have to see, like you said, the new administration is making a lot of promises, but they're making promises that I don't know if they have the power to enact. Like the president can't say interest rates I'm going to make them go down. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
It just doesn't. Yeah. I wish it did. It doesn't. And in fact, I think the Fed is set to cut rates a couple more times in the next 6 months, but I don't know if that's going to directly affect mortgage interest rates.
Correct.
It depends. In my opinion, it depends on the job market. It depends on those
jobs
numbers.
And inflation, the big two.
Yeah. I mean, it really doesn't depend on the president. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. All right. Yeah. Let's see what they are saying about mortgage rates. Let me get this back on since I have my glasses on already. Okay. Mortgage rates will fall, then rise, then fall again. Sorry. Sometimes these I don't read them in advance. I probably should, but I just like to read it with you guys so I can get an honest reaction. Signs point to mortgage rates easing in 2025, but as we saw in 2024, mortgage rates rarely follow the expected path. What is more certain is that buyers should expect plenty of ups and downs throughout the year. Mortgage rates fell in September, briefly bringing the share of affordable listings to a 19-month high. I'd like to know where those are. Yeah. They have since climbed back to nearly 7%, changing the affordability picture for homebuyers. More swings like this are expected in 2025, with refinancing sprints occurring during the dips. Okay. I mean, so basically, they're telling us nothing. They're saying they're going to go up and then they're going to go down and then
they're saying we don't really know in a very
they're saying less. And I think that they are being cautious.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there is so much talk and noise about the new administration making all these changes, deregulations, interest rates going down, building in federal lands. Well, you know them all. We both covered them all. And if all of these things happen, if there's, less regulations so builders can build more, and I'm not saying no regulations, but there's a lot of red tape that goes into building. So still keeping it safe. But if there's less regulations so builders can build more, it may be more affordable, and there's more land to build on them, and somehow miraculously interest rates go down, then yes, there will be a lot of change and a lot of disruption very soon. I just don't see all those things happening, at least not very soon.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't. So buyer markets will spread to the Southwest. Currently, 13 major metro areas are buyers markets, where buyers have the upper hand in negotiations, according to Zillow's Market Heat Index, with most of those in the Southeast. Southeast, interesting. Zillow predicts buyers markets will spread to the Southwest in 2025 as inventory continues to come unstuck in relatively affordable markets. These buyer markets should have the greatest number of movers, while sellers will feel the heat of competition as buyers will have more homes to choose from. If mortgage rates fall more than expected, that dims the prospect that buyers markets will spread west. It is anticipated that a significant mortgage rate dip would bring more buyers than sellers back to the market, increasing competition and tilting negotiation power in favor of sellers. Once again, I feel like they I hate to say this, I feel like they gaslight us. Like they say one thing and then they say another thing. Like they're like, you start to read it and you think like, oh, there's buyers markets. Oh, there's going to be more. Southeast. I thought there were more in the Southwest, to be honest, but okay. They're going to spread to the Southwest. And then they say buyers markets should have the greatest number of movers. Sellers are going to feel the heat of competition as buyers have more homes to choose from. But then they go back and say, but if mortgage rates fall more than expected, then buyers are out of luck and it's back in favor of the sellers.
Right. Which makes sense. I mean, that's nothing new, right? When rates go down, more buyers come out of the quote unquote woodwork, which is a word that I'm beginning to hate because it's so overused in that situation. But that's not a new revelation. That's not really a real prediction, right? Like that's pretty basic home buying 101. Rates go down, buyers come out, affordability goes up, and then all of a sudden your competition goes up.
Right. And then home prices go up.
Right.
Sean H. Lots of YouTubers talking about shadow inventory, where builders are holding back new homes to hide how slow their sales are. Real or clickbait? What do you think?
I'll tell you right now, Sean, you have hit one of the words that's dear and close to my heart. I love to debunk the shadow inventory shenanigans.
I don't know anything about the shadow inventory, so please tell me and tell
all right. So shadow inventory is a word that's been coined by the Crash Bros, the YouTuber Crash Bros out there, what they're essentially alluding to is part of the reasons that they believe there's going to be a market crash. Which, when we're talking about potentially getting to a year where we have the lowest amount of homes turnover, we have record amounts of equity, and we have the highest qualified buyers we've had in the last 20 or 30 years buying homes, it's very clear to industry professionals that there is going to be no major market crash. However, Crash Bros make their money perpetuating this fear that there's going to be this massive thing. Part of that is this idea of shadow inventory. And what Crash Bros will say is they go, oh, well, there's really way more inventory than what's being reported. We actually don't have an inventory problem. There is no inventory shortage. They're just cooking the numbers so that it seems like we don't have as many houses. And what they'll point to, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to say we actually have more homes available to purchase than what the statistics are showing. And there's actually more supply than what's being led on.
Why are they hiding them?
Right. And that's where this comes in. So that's a great question. And that's what I would respond with. And so what happens, and where they say shadow inventory, they go, oh, if you go to a new major builder, right? Let's say, in my area, KB Home is a major builder, and you go to KB Home and they're making a community that's going to be 80 houses, right? And they go, oh, well, if you look, on the MLS or on Zillow, there's only 3 houses listed online, but they have 27 built, and they're not showing that as inventory. So it says there's only 3 available, but in reality, there's like 30 available. And that's those 27 it's shadow inventory. Like it's this weird thing.
I don't think that's what I don't think they look at inventory based on the MLS.
No. And here's the thing. We know this, and Caryn, you could probably confirm this, but builders have always been direct to consumer. A builder wants someone to come walk directly in their office and sell it directly to them. The only reason they put 3 or 4 homes on the MLS
is to get our interest. Yeah.
Bingo. And so that way their stuff goes out to Zillow, Redfin, Trulia,
right.
all this stuff. And then consumers will see it, go directly to the builder, and then buy a home to spec, build it out.
Yeah.
And the Crash Bros claim is that, oh no, what they're doing is they're suppressing inventory so that they can keep the price high and the amount of inventory low.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't.
I'm
Here's
aware.
maybe because honestly, this is the first time I've heard of this, Sean. So thank you for bringing it up. I guess I'm not one of those YouTubers because I've never mentioned it because I've never heard of it. But I like it. I want to talk about it. So let's just play this out. So a builder wants to sell their product. That's how they make money. But they're not going to tell. Who are we not telling? Who are we hiding it from?
What they're doing is it's because if there's a given home that has like 40 available homes, but only 3 are listed on the MLS.
No, I know. I understand what the crash people are saying, but I'm saying, like, what is the thought behind it? That the builders are hiding the homes from who? It doesn't make any sense. I can't even argue because it makes no sense.
Right. I think what they're trying to say is the crash bros are saying that there's 2 things going on. Number one, it's going to artificially keep prices high because the builders are going, we only have 3 houses to sell you. So if we only have 3 houses and there's 5 people that are interested in, we can get a higher price.
People can't see the other houses that are being built. They don't have
my point. Exactly. That's why it doesn't make any sense, right? That's why
the builder doesn't want to sell the other houses. Oh
my God.
And ridiculous.
And that's why the shadow inventory thing has always made me laugh, because it's like, no, you don't understand. Builders don't want to advertise all of their homes because they're going to wait for someone to walk into their office, build it to spec, and sell it directly to that consumer. And that's why
builders are very transparent when they build in different locations. They release them. They don't release them all at the same time. Right. They release them at one what's the word I'm looking for? One phase. Thank you. One phase at a time, because they don't have manpower to build them all at once. First of all, and second of all, they don't want to have all that inventory sitting there. That is true.
Correct.
But they release them in phases. But a lot of times they sell out before. Like, we have a new construction around the corner for me. They're already sold out. They haven't broke ground. Yeah. They sell before they're necessarily built. Yeah. Because the phases are advertised when you go to that builder's website, or you go on site, or you go here. They have all the maps. They show all the lots. They show the different models you can choose from. This makes no sense. And just because they don't advertise in the MLS, inventory is not based on what's on the MLS. I was telling you, I had 2 closings today. One of them was private. It's never going on the MLS. It's not hidden inventory. The sale is going to be deeded. It's going to be in the records. It's going to be recorded. Right. Like, it makes sense. That makes no sense.
And I think where they're getting it from too is like in these really large communities, mostly like in Texas, in Georgia, where there's a ton of new builds going on. I think what they're seeing is like, oh, these builders are building 150 homes. 30 of them are complete, but they're only advertising 5 available. And so they're going, oh, see, there's this shadow inventory. There's really more out there than what they're telling you. And what the crash bros are saying is because there's really more inventory than what they're showing, then in reality, we don't have a housing shortage. And that's what's going to lead to a crash. Is we're all of a sudden overnight, we're going to have too much inventory.
So they're hiding the homes, and then one day they're gonna be like, ta-da!
Yes. Yes, turns out we have a ton, and we have to reduce the prices because we can't sell them. So, and yes, Hui Nguyen, exactly correct. Real estate mindset is like he's like the brainchild of the shadow inventory. I think for him, he loves that word. He loves using that, and I've always thought
and we're going to move on because I'm going to get to Zillow's other producing. But I just have to, for one more second. And anybody, if you're watching this live, please chime in if you've heard about this, because this is new to me, believe it or not. And I feel like I'm pretty informed. I guess I'm not informed on things that make no sense. But let's just play it out. When these people start talking about this, right? And they explain it like you just did, like the builders only advertise these 3 and they have 500 more, and they're doing this so these 3 sell for a higher price, right? That's right, higher price. And then one day they're going to release them all, and there'll be so much inventory that the housing market will crash. And that's in the builder's best interest because
precisely.
Okay, so there's no way they don't answer that. Nobody asked that question.
No, because it's not what the crash bros are hoping to do is they're hoping to continue this narrative that we don't have a housing shortage, because right now we know that it's a very basic supply and demand issue. And what their claim is, the people that hang their hat on shadow inventory, is that there really is no supply issue. There is none. The supply is there. It's just being suppressed so the numbers look lower. And my first reaction to that is,
it doesn't make sense. There's no reason for that. It makes no sense.
Right.
People want to make money. It's that simple as that. Builder builds a product. They want to sell it. They want to make money. It's very simple. It's not that complicated. They're not hiding inventory
Right.
to then facilitate a housing market crash. So then all of their product goes down.
Yep.
That is just ridiculous.
Thank you for bringing up shadow inventory, Sean.
By the way, if anyone else is watching this and you have more stories about shadow inventory and you have any answers, I would just put it in the chat. I want to know.
I would love it. Yeah. I'm good to go for it.
I'm going to look into this now, but I would get so angry. I would go and what was it? The one real estate something mindset.
Real estate mindset. Yeah, you got to watch it in you got to watch it in the right mindset because it will make you a little bit angry sometimes.
But I would challenge them. Like, you guys go on that, challenge them, ask them, play it out. So then what happens? Then what happens? How does that serve anyone?
Yep.
Inventory is based on transactions, which are all recorded, people. They're all recorded, whether it's a builder or a realtor or anybody, everything's recorded, even when you sell them privately, like I did today. Okay. Southwest. Okay. Americans embrace small home living. The pandemic era need for more and more space is over. Home buyers were increasingly lean into smaller homes as a more sustainable, affordable, and desirable way to live. Sorry. The term cozy is appearing in more listing descriptions, 35% more in 2024 compared to 2023, reflecting current design trends that have shifted away from cavernous open floor plans toward contained spaces that have their own style and purpose. Home values of small condos are finally stabilizing after remote work left downtowns more empty, even while home value appreciation of larger properties, though much stronger, continues to soften. I can tell you here in DC, they're still really not doing well. The condo market in DC, it hasn't bounced back like other places. And I'm right outside of DC. I mean, I literally can drive 15 minutes and I hit DC. But sorry, I'm so fascinated by the shadow inventory. I see somebody say, Jessica Drawing, the best thing to do is join the conference calls of the major home builders for their quarterly reports. If I recall correctly, the reason a lot of homes are not listed is due to taxes. But I don't understand that.
I think basically what Jessica is saying right now is that it's very strategic about what builders consider to be inventory or not, because once a home is completed and it's been given its certificate of occupancy, then at that point it's subject to property tax, and then the builder has to pay on that. So, and that's why for these crash bros to say, oh no, shadow inventory, they're holding things back, they're manipulating the market. No, builders have a very, very specific reason for doing these things. And it shouldn't be surprising to anybody that a major builder is very smart and is very strategic about making sure that they don't incur any taxes, any unnecessary taxes, any unnecessary costs, because that's going to lower their margin. And that's what's doing. And these and crash bros, they just run with it. They're just like, oh no, something is fraudulent. There's something.
That totally makes sense. It's just once they complete the home, it's taxable to the corporation. However, they're having lots of cancellations. So there's certainly a situation. I'm not saying that there's not builders that have more image, but first of all, it depends on where in the country. But I'm certainly not saying that there aren't certain markets that builders are having trouble selling their inventory. I know because I had two real estate agents, both from Florida, on my streams in the last month. And both of them told me that builders are offering these crazy incentives and they're having a hard time selling. And, I think a lot of it had to do with different, the hurricanes and the storms and damage and home insurance. And there's different reasons, but they certainly were telling me that they were offering a lot of incentives, and builders don't get really down and dirty with incentives unless they really need to sell product and they're not selling. So I'm certainly by no means saying that builders aren't having a hard time in certain markets. I'm just having a hard time with the conspiracy theory. That's where I'm poking a little fun. It's not at the builders. It's not at their inventory. It's not even at them having challenges selling it. It's the conspiracy theory behind the what was it called? Shadow inventory.
Right.
That yeah. And Joe's saying the same thing, and I agree with you. But that's not where I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with the conspiracy, thinking that they are intentionally holding back inventory to then create a housing market crash eventually.
Right. But you have to remember, Caryn, that's that's how the doomsdayers, the crash bros, you know, all the crash YouTubers, that's how they get their clicks. That's how they get their likes. That's how they get their views. They're appealing to a certain segment of people that love the conspiracy, that love the idea that there's a force out there that's preventing them from home ownership. And listen, I'm not saying the path to home ownership is easy. We know it's difficult. We know affordability is low. We know that you have to work hard, you have to be diligent, and you have to manage your money well. I understand that. And I understand it's very expensive right now and it's hard to buy a house. However, it's a classic thing. And it doesn't come just with housing. People are always looking for a boogeyman. People are always looking for someone to blame. People are always looking for a reason that they can't accomplish something. And in this case, the crash bros know that if I put these crazy theories out there, people will gobble it up and say, well, see, that's why. That's why it's so expensive. That's why I can't accomplish this goal. That's why I'll never be able to do it. In reality, that's not true. They need to have a little bit more self-confidence in themselves, because the fact of the matter is you can buy a home. You just have to have discipline. You have to work really hard, and you have to be diligent and have a plan. And people love to have an excuse for a reason why something doesn't work.
I remember back when I first started making videos in 2020. I've been a realtor for 22 years, but I only started making videos during the pandemic because people weren't going to see houses, and we had to find a way to show them houses and show them neighborhoods. And so that's how it all started for me. And I remember back then, a lot of people were talking about a housing market crash because there's a pandemic. We didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
And then very, very quickly, when the federal government, stimulated the economy by lowering interest rates and giving out a lot of money and checks, whatever, and all of a sudden, within months, the housing market picked up and it kind of went crazy for about a year and a half from then. It was very clear that there wasn't going to be any housing market crash. So you're telling me now, and we're practically in 2025, there's still these people out there on YouTube saying that we're still now, 4 years later, expecting a housing market crash.
Yes. And they're always going to say it's coming. It's right around the corner. It's right around the corner. Caryn, it's been around the corner, according to these guys, for 5 years. It's been around the corner.
Like I said, 4 years ago, I think a lot of us were in the pandemic. Nobody knew, but it was very clear, in a very short amount of time, that wasn't going to happen. Now, we have other problems. Don't get me wrong. We have other problems. We definitely have an affordability crisis. That there is no doubt. We don't have a lot of inventory, and money is a lot more expensive than it was. And so between high home prices that have gone up, 30 to 40% over the last 4 years, with high mortgage interest rates, makes affordability a real challenge. And that is a big problem that I'm hoping there will be some relief. I don't know. What do you think about this Zillow's prediction about the small home living? Are you seeing people preferring like small spaces rather than the open floor plan?
I think that, again, I work with a lot of buyers. I haven't heard a lot of clients say, I want something small. I want something cozy. Rather, what I think that it really is I think it's people trying to figure out, I need to adjust my expectations based on what's available and what I can afford. And a smaller home is going to be more affordable in a multitude of ways. The purchase price is probably going to be more affordable than of a larger home in the same neighborhood of the same condition. A smaller home is going to be more efficient to run with utilities, less AC, less heat, less natural gas. Insurance is most likely going to be cheaper. Maintenance is going to be cheaper. You don't have as big of a yard, all these things. So I think it's people just coming to the realization that, hey, you know what? I don't need the 2,600 square foot house with 5 bedrooms and a 3-car garage. Maybe if this was 10 years ago and that home was $400,000, I would go for it. However, I can only spend $400,000 now. And if that gets me a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,300 square foot bungalow on an 8,000 square foot lot, hey, I want a house. I want to be able to buy something. I want to be able to control my future, and I want to build wealth. I'll go for it. I think that's more what we're seeing.
And that makes sense to me. I can understand. I can understand, like, we're trying to really be conscious about your housing costs, not just the cost of the house, but actually the housing costs, which are the things you just mentioned, like your home insurance, your utilities, your maintenance, all that stuff. That definitely makes sense to me. I could see that. It's so funny. I think I told you I used to live in California for 9 years. And so when you mentioned like bungalows and stuff, it brings me back. We don't have those here. All right, they have a couple more things. So let me just read the last couple ones. I still want to talk about this builder conspiracy thing. I think it's just so fascinating. I'm sorry, I never heard of it. I never heard it, and I'm going to look into it. But
I was going to say, I know what you're going to be Googling tonight when you're on the couch. You're going to be like, Google shadow inventory. What is
I
this?
am, because like I said, it sounds like, well, let me finish and then we're going to get back to that.
Yeah,
right,
for sure.
Last call for rent concessions. Apartment renters enjoyed a relatively friendly market this year, at least compared to the record rent growth seen in 2022. Rent growth has held steady at a reasonable pace, and the share of rental listings on Zillow offered a concession, such as free weeks of rent or free parking, is at a record high. Zillow expects renters will not have as much opportunity to negotiate for that free month of rent by the end of next year. The multifamily construction boom is a primary reason for the rise in concessions. More multifamily units are hitting the market than at any time in the past 50 years, pushing property managers to compete for renters. Those fireworks are predicted to fizzle in 2025, especially the second half of the year. And then last thing they say is renters are getting older and they are not putting off adulting milestones such as moving in together or getting a pet before they buy a home. The median age of a renter has risen to 42, and they are settling into the renter lifestyle. Fewer renters considered buying this year, which is understandable given conditions that make renting the more affordable option in many markets. With 58% of renters having a pet, up from 46% before the pandemic, it is no wonder that nearly half said they passed on a particular property because it was not pet friendly. In today's more competitive rental landscape, not allowing pets may put property managers behind the eight ball. So basically, they're saying that rent growth. I don't work in the rental market. So do you work in the rental market?
Every once in a while, when I have a good client or a referral client or repeat client that needs something, I'll work it a little bit. But I always keep my eye on stuff.
It says Zillow says renters will not have as much opportunity to negotiate for that free month of rent by the end of next year. But then it says that multifamily units are hitting the market. More multifamily units are hitting the market than any time in the past 50 years, pushing property managers to compete. Oh, I see what they're saying. Some people, they think people will be buying in the multifamily units rather than renting.
I think what they're saying. I think what they're saying is they're saying there's been a boom for multifamily construction.
Yeah.
Which, we know that. We know that since about 2021, when we realized there was a major housing shortage, not shadow inventory, when there was actually major housing shortage, they started building a lot more housing units, but a lot of them were for rent, condos and townhomes and things like that. And I think what they're saying is that building boom is going to fizzle out a little bit. And then at that point, renters might face a little bit of a harder time getting concessions on rent, negotiating lower rent, because there's going to be less inventory being completed and being available. Whereas right now, there's kind of a decent amount of rental inventory.
And more people are renting is what they're saying. So basically saying that more people are renting than buying for obvious reasons. And where there were so many properties or units available, so they were competing for the renters, they see that going down. And so the renters may not get those concessions like the free rent or parking coming up.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't have a lot to say about that because I don't work in the rental market. Even here, I just never have in the 22 years. I don't know if that's true or not. It sounds like that if there are more people renting and there's less inventory to rent, then it could become harder. I mean, do you have any insight to any of that? Because I honestly don't.
Yeah, I think again, this is one of these things where it just depends on where you are. I'm in an area where I haven't seen any backslide on rent. It seems like we did have a little increase in rental inventory, but not enough to make an impact on like the median rent in my market. I'm not surprised to hear that there was an increase of, what was it, 12%, 46 to 58 when it came to the pet thing. Yeah, 12%. I'm not surprised about that. We know a lot of people got pandemic dogs and cats,
right?
And that was great. I remember seeing news stories about how like the shelters are like empty, which was phenomenal. But I'm not surprised to hear about that. California's passing some legislation that says that if it goes through, it's going to make it much more difficult for landlords to charge pet rent or do increased pet deposits, because this is becoming a bigger thing. I think ultimately my take on this is I understand why more people are renting right now, and I understand why more older people are renting right now. And it's just because in a lot of markets, it is more affordable. And I'm not going to be one of those agents that says, oh, why are you renting? You should just buy. Obviously, Caryn, I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but in my opinion is it really comes down to, your personal situation. Are you ready financially? Are you on a solid foundation? Do you have a good long-term plan? Are you in a relationship? And if so, is it stable? And can you count on it? All those things before you go into the buying sphere. So I think that, rent serves its purpose. Renting does serve its purpose. Of course, I think buying is always a better long-term thing to do, but I'm not surprised to hear that there's more older people renting, because like the article said, in so many markets, you're looking at renting a house for $1,800 a month or paying a mortgage of $2,400 a month.
Right.
And when people are struggling to just sort of feel comfortable financially, that's a big difference. And they're going to go with the more affordable option. And
you got maintenance and everything else. That being said, kind of alluding to what you said as well, if you do have the means and you can comfortably buy a home, in my opinion, there's nothing like it. It's my home. I know my home for 19 years. I never thought I would be in here that long, but I have. And it's where I raised my family, and it's where we're having the holidays, and it's where I come home to, and I get to do what I want to it. And, there's just nothing like it. And I want the same for my kids. My kids are both in college now. I became an empty nester a couple months ago.
Congratulations.
I know. And
okay. I know that's difficult.
Well, no, they're both home now, so it's fine. And they're very messy, so they can go back to school. Happy to know. But I'm one of the people. This is why I know that inventory is not going to let up anytime soon. Not that it's all about me, but I know that there are a lot of people like me that did refinance in 2021 and did get a mortgage for under 3% for the next 30 years. And I was also one of the people that was sure, my kids were sure, that the minute that the last one went to school, I was selling my house. I was getting out of the suburbs. I don't know where I was going, but I was getting out of the suburbs. And there's just no way. It's too cheap to stay.
Yeah, you have the platinum handcuffs. You have the platinum handcuffs of the 2.8%, mortgage rate, and that's also one of those things that I try to explain to people that are so adamant that renting is better. And I want to tell them, listen, you can't make a blanket statement like that. Just like I would never make a blanket statement that says buying is better for everyone all the time. That's foolish. It's foolish and it's misleading. And I always give everybody a story, and I don't tell people this story because I'm trying to puff up my own situation or allude to a lifestyle I don't have. But I always tell people the power of real estate is extremely, extremely real. And I'm a great example of that. I bought my first house in 2019 at the age of 29 years old.
Good for you.
Thank you. And that was in LA, mind you. It was a piece of junk. It was terrible. It was deplorable. I'll never forget, really quick story. My brother comes to look at my house, and I'm so excited. I'm like, Brian, look at my house. I'm going to buy a house. Look at it. Okay, come look at it. He comes out, he walks in the door, and he's like, bro, what are you doing? And I was like, no, just go with me. Like, I've got the vision. My wife is an interior designer. And so I was like, Michelle she's going to do the whole place. It's going to be great. And he's like, dude, no way. 3 months later, we redo it. It looks beautiful. We lived in the house for 2 years. A house came up in our neighborhood that we liked. That was our dream home, our forever home, the one that I'm sitting in right now. And I bought my house for $535,000. I sold it 2.5 years later for $840,000.
Wow.
And that is the reason that I was able to buy $1 million home that I'm sitting in now at the age of 33. And it's not a hack. It's not a cheat code. That's why real estate is phenomenal.
And listen, when I lived in LA, I bought my first home in LA in Hollywood Hills, like I told you. And it was a condo, but it was a big condo. It was like 1,850 square feet for a condo. Which is big. Yeah, with a big patio. It was nice. And we bought it, but it was needed some work. So we renovated it, I had my baby there, we were good. And then my husband at the time moved us back here for work, and I sold it for $250,000 more than I bought it for.
Exactly.
Later. And because I did that, I was able to buy this house that I still live in now, and use that money for a down payment for this. Yeah. So that's exactly what I did.
And that right there is why I like to demonstrate to people that are so pro rent. Yeah. Listen, renting is okay, But when you rent, you're never going to be able to do that. And they go, well, I'll invest my money. I'll put my money in the stock market and make 8% per year, 9% per year. Great. You should. Wonderful. I hope you do. I hope you do that. I hope you make a ton of money. I made almost $300,000 in 3 years from real estate, and I did nothing special.
And
I didn't do anything
you live there. You got to remember, you have that opportunity, guys. You didn't pay rent. You live there. Like you live there. Like that's where you're. All right. So Slipping to me says, office workers have not come back to work here in DC, and the buildings are empty. The city is trying to encourage the owners to convert the offices to rentals, condos. Yeah, there's still a big problem here anyway. There's a big problem that people are not coming back into the office. I think it's actually a national problem. And I hear a lot of noise that people, are really incentivizing their employees to come back into the office. They want people back in. They think they're more productive if they're back in. I actually think, and I'm an independent contractor like you, so I could be wrong, but I had an idea. And this isn't really nothing to do with what you're talking about, Jimmy, so I apologize. We'll get to that. But it just made me think of my idea. I was talking to somebody and we're trying to figure out how there's going to be more affordable housing, how that's going to happen, given the situation we're in. And there is a lot of land out there that has not been built. There's a lot of federal land out there. It's also just a lot of land out there, but it's so remote when you look at the map of where this land is that nobody wants to live there because you're too far from work. You're too far from whatever. So I was thinking if they could somehow combine building communities and when this becomes, a common thing and safe, driverless cars together and package that together. So live here for cheap and we'll get you to work and you can do all your work or you take a nap on the way to work and the way home because you don't have to drive. I think, and I'm kind of joking, but not really. I think that could be a pathway to building more affordable housing and making it productive for people to even still go into work, like not having to work remotely. Mm-hmm. That's my spiel. Yeah. So I will write to the government. I will tell them and they will get right on. I'm sure the president's new best friend can make it happen, maybe. But yeah, so I know they're trying to make people come back in DC. He's saying, is this going on in other cities? I don't know. I know that that commercial real estate is really suffering. That I know much more so than residential real estate. I don't work in commercial. Do you?
I don't do any commercial. Nope. It's a different animal. And I don't do that. Residential only for me.
Yeah, me too. But my dad does. And I know a lot of people that do. And they definitely, I think the pandemic really opened up the door for remote work. I mean, I do a lot of my contracts, a lot of my closings on Zoom. I still do, even though we don't have to. But it's just become the norm when it's easier for everybody. So we still do it. Yep. And I think with that, a lot of office buildings really suffered because people really didn't need them and they were expensive. And so that's definitely a problem. Converting them into condos. I mean, I don't know who, they'd have to get the zoning to do that in DC, and then they'd have to have the demand for them. So we'll see what happens. I don't know if that's going to be true. So Zillow's predictions were not really anything that interesting.
No, very wishy-washy, very back and forth, very, well, this could happen, but then this could happen.
Right. I took a couple of notes for this video that I was researching for. So I'm just going to throw out some stuff at you and we'll see what you think. Oh, okay. Just the housing price predictions for 2025. Okay. So NAR, Lawrence Yun, NAR, that's the National Association of Realtors. Chief economist Lawrence Yun projects a 2% increase in median home prices for both 2025 and 2026. Remember, this is national. Then he's got a bunch of stuff. CoreLogic predicts that home price appreciation will slow to an average growth of 2.3%. So they're still, and Zillow was what? Zillow was 2.3 as well?
2.6.
2.6. We have 2%, 2.6, 2.3%, compared to the 4.5% growth in 2024, according to Selma Hepp, the chief economist for CoreLogic. And they go into the top 3 markets at risk of home price decline, according to the CoreLogic Market Risk Indicator, are Provo, Orem, Utah, Atlanta, Sandy Springs, Roswell, Georgia, and Salt Lake City, Utah. So if you live in those 3 places, CoreLogic says you're at risk of home price depreciation, not of anything else. All right, Zillow we did. Mortgage Bankers Association anticipates a 3.9% increase in home prices for 2024. Oh, that's now, with growth slowing to 2.7% in 2025, so still under 3%. As for mortgage rates, they now expect rates to hover between 6.4% and 6.6%, a stark revision from its October forecast of 5.9% to 6.2%. So that's not good, because they're actually the Mortgage Bankers Association. So they're saying that rates will probably stay in the mid to upper sixes. Fannie Mae says home prices will rise by 3% in 2025. Bank of America says home prices will rise by 5% in 2025. And Goldman Sachs says home price appreciation will be 4.4% in 2025 and 4.9% in 26 and 27. And the last one, Moody's Analytics says 0.3% in 2025, 0.9% in 2026, and 1.7% in 2027. So they're the more conservative. So all in all, they range from 0.3%, but that's kind of the outliers. Basically 2% to 5% for home price appreciation in 2025. I think where I am right here in my little pocket outside of DC, the DC suburbs of Montgomery County, Maryland, I think home prices will probably go, nobody's a crystal ball, but I'm going to say here probably 3 to 5% is my guess. I mean, I closed on a house today that is listed at $1 million, went for 10% above that.
Wow.
And that was today. So, yeah. And I have another one that's closing next week that's going at asking. So it really depends on the house here. It really depends on the house. One thing I am seeing is a lot of cash buyers. Are you seeing a lot of cash?
I'm not seeing a ton of cash buyers right now. In fact, I haven't really seen a ton of cash buyers really this year. I mean, every once in a while we still get them, but what I'm seeing more of is I'm seeing more people with like 20 and 30 and 40% down payment. And I think what a lot of that is stemming from is that's a lot of people that sold a home where they had a bunch of equity. They bought it pre-pandemic or in 2014, 2015, sold it, and then did what I did what you did when you moved back, took that equity and said, hey, you know what, I'm going to take this, of this $300,000 that I made in equity, I'm going to take 250 of it and shove it back into
so they keep their monthly price low, monthly amount low.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think I'm not seeing a lot of cash, but I am seeing more buyers come in with a higher down payment, whether that's through the sale of a different piece of real estate and the equity being carried over, or what a lot of people are doing, especially younger first-time home buyers, is the bank of mom and dad are starting to cough it up a little bit easier. They're starting to go, okay, listen, we understand it's difficult. We want you to be a homeowner. We understand the security and the wealth building. Here's $100,000. Here's $50,000.
You're not talking to me, are you?
I know you got 2 daughters, right? So
I have one daughter, one son.
You might have to save away some money for them. Otherwise, they're going to be coming back home.
Okay, Joe. They're going to have to get jobs. And they will. Michael Anthony said, which companies would you invest into with that news today? Which companies would you invest into with that? I don't understand the question. I mean, which companies would, with what news today? I mean, with the Zillow home price predictions?
Yeah. If you could be a little bit more specific on what the news is, I think in general, based on what we've talked about, if you take anything away and you're talking about investing, I mean, to me, it's okay with stocks. Okay. I don't know. I mean, I don't think there's a bunch of news in here that would make me run out and go buy X, Y, or Z stock. Yeah. What I do think you might be able to take away is that obviously there's still a demand for homes. Obviously we still have an inventory problem. So maybe look at Lennar or KB stocks, see what they do. But again, that can all change. There's so many macroeconomic situations that could change. And all of a sudden, 2 months from now, we don't know where things are going to be. And maybe the tariffs do go into effect, and the tariffs do affect builders, and the tariffs do affect them in a negative way when it comes to stock pricing. So personally, I don't see anything in here that would make me run out and go buy this stock or that stock.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But since we're talking about builders again, let's get back to, we said all the builders were up today.
Yeah, right now it's a great time. If you have builder stock, it's a great time because the demand is there, and the economic numbers look good in terms of jobs and inflation not being super high. So I'm not surprised that builders are up today. But if the tariffs go into effect, when they go into effect, if they do go into effect, that tune could change.
Yeah, I know, because if things become more expensive, you know, for them, that's going to be more expensive for the consumer, and then there will be more inventory.
Mm-hmm.
But since we're talking about builders, and since we're talking about inventory, I just have to go back to the shadow inventory conspiracy.
Ooh, shadow.
Just for a second, because I just want to know, and I don't know, if you watch, and anybody who's watching this, if you know anything, please chime in, because I'm really curious. When they talk about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they say what happens in the end? Does it end in a housing market crash? How does it end?
Yeah,
how does
they're saying that shadow inventory is something that is being underreported.
Why?
It's something that's, the books are being cooked, and it's one thing that will lead to a housing crash.
But why is it being underreported? Why?
I think that's part of the conspiracy, right? I think they're saying it's being underreported to make it look like things are still okay, houses are still expensive, people
but it's
are
not things aren't okay,
right?
I'm just playing devil's advocate, because I'm just like, but things aren't okay. So why are they I don't understand why, and I don't understand what the point is, and then what happens in the end.
Yeah, so the crash bros are saying that the point of this shadow inventory is to make it look like there aren't as many houses, and basically what they're saying is it's the the data collectors, your Redfin, your Zillow, your NAR, your federal housing data.
Yeah.
They're trying to make it look like, oh, the housing market's going to continue to go up. We have a
nobody's saying that.
Issue.
I just read you 10 different insiders forecasts, and they all said 2%, 2.5%.
Right. But see, to the crash bros, that's not their narrative. Is it's going to fall 30%. Their narrative is going to fall 20%.
Why? How?
That's a great question. And
I know, but I want to know. I want to know what they're saying. Not what are they saying? What are they saying? How, okay, so I just want to follow it, and I want to keep you too much longer. I'm just fascinated because I haven't heard.
This is great. This is good.
Okay, so they're saying that builders are hiding their inventory by not posting on the MLS, which makes no sense because they don't post all their inventory on MLS, never have.
Right.
But and every time a transaction closes, it's recorded. So first of all, the whole thing makes no sense, but let's just go with it.
Yeah.
The builders are hiding their inventory to make it seem like to the public that we don't have a lot of inventory. So people will pay more money for a home that is available. Am I right so far?
Yeah, yes. That's basically what it comes to with new builds. Now they'll also say that, like, oh, well, shadow inventory is also these homes where, they're in foreclosure, they're pre-foreclosure, but they haven't hit the market yet. And I'm like, okay, well, then that's not real inventory. If it's not available for purchase, then it's not part of housing inventory. My home is not part of available housing inventory because it's not available. I live here, I stay here. So I think that really what it comes down to is it's these crash bros trying to perpetuate this narrative that it's an illusion. It's smoke and mirrors. And I
understand the illusion they're trying to create, but I don't understand. Somebody's got, I'm the only person that's challenging them. Somebody's got to challenge them and say, well, but what's the point? But then what happens? So then one day the builders say, ta-da, I've got 100 homes that I didn't tell you about.
It's not the builder's choice. What they're saying is that, well, if there's an economic slowdown or if there's just a little bit of job loss, all of a sudden these builders are going to go, oh, shoot. We don't, instead of having 3 homes available, we actually have 35 homes available. And now no one's buying homes. And we're going to have to take serious price cuts because we got 35 unsold homes and we can't sit on them any longer. So that's what they're saying is going to be one of the arms of a massive real estate crash, is the fact there's this surplus inventory.
No, wait, that doesn't wait. So the builders are going to hold back inventory and hide it. And then one day say, oops, here it is. I don't understand.
Yeah. So that's what
I need the conspiracy to make sense, Joe. I need the conspiracy.
It doesn't, right? Because we know, you and I know, right? We know this is industry professionals. We know that there is a shortage in housing. We know there's a huge demand for it. And we know that homeowners have huge amounts of equity. So that's going to nix the foreclosure issue because people will just sell the home. They won't foreclose on it.
Homes will get foreclosed on. They always do. But if you look at the numbers compared to pre-pandemic levels, they're not higher.
Right. Exactly. And so that's why it doesn't make sense. But again, you have to remember these crash bros are in the business.
I know that they're trying to get clicks, but I'm just fascinated because I like to hope that somebody pushes back, and I'm just curious what the answer is. Mm-hmm. Like, what's the answer when somebody says, "But what's the point?" And then what happens? Don Cardinal, every new house in the area I'm looking in has dropped 15 to 50,000 last month. Where are you? You guys, when you ask a question, tell us where you are, because you know real estate is very localized. And are you here? Are you in my area? Are you in the DC area?
And keep in mind that part of that, I'm not going to say that. Don, I'm not going to say that this is why, but part of that could be seasonality. This is when most homes are $15,000 to $20,000 discounted as opposed to the springtime. And that's a national average. Nationally, as an average, homes that are on the market between about October to November sell for about $13,000 to $18,000 less. So I'm not surprised to see that.
Oh, Southern Louisiana. I was going to say Southern LA. Southern Louisiana. So I was like, oh, he's in your area. No, he's not.
Oh, Southern LA. Yeah, I can help you out.
No. Looking at Hattiesburg, Missouri?
Mississippi.
What's Missouri? Am I? No, I think it's Missouri.
I think so.
I don't know. Sorry, Don. I think that probably then, if are you looking to buy? Because if prices are being reduced 15 to 50,000, I don't know what the price point is. Is that 10%? Is that 15%? Is it 3%? It's probably because they weren't price raised to begin with, or there isn't too much inventory and there's not enough buyers out there. Every real estate market is different. Only houses I'm seeing around here where I am in the DC area would have price reductions are ones that are overpriced.
Yes. Yeah. Same thing. Same thing that I'm seeing here.
They're not having price reductions because there's too many houses. It's just because they're overpriced.
And you know what I thought is something that's always kind of interesting to me, Caryn, and maybe you feel the same way, I don't know. And it kind of goes with like the crash bro theory. It's so funny because maybe you've noticed this. When people talk about how, oh man, housing is so expensive and the prices keep going up and, oh man, it's costs a lot of money to buy a house. People are upset because the unaffordability is high and people that don't own houses get upset. But then when there's news that comes out that's like, oh, inventory has ticked up, we're starting to see some softening on prices, people are like, oh, see, housing crash. And you're like, wait a minute, I thought you wanted the prices to go down a little bit. Like this should be a good thing. The fact that we are getting a little bit more inventory and that there will be a little bit more competition amongst sellers. It's like people only have it like one way or the other. Either housing is too expensive and it keeps getting more expensive and unattainable, or the moment there's a shred of hope for some type of affordability, whether that's through inventory increases, interest rate decreases, or whatever it may be, people are like, oh my God, the housing market is showing signs of weakness and it's all going to crash. It's like, well, what do you want? Do you want houses to stay expensive longer? Or do you want to have a chance at affordability? So it's always interesting how that stuff gets magnified and kind of twisted to fit whatever the narrative may be, when in reality, it's just a market doing what the market does, fluctuating. That's what it always does. That's what it always will do.
You're very young, but those of us who were working through the 2008 housing market crash remember it. And it was terrifying. And it was precipitated by bad lenders and faulty loans, and people were getting money they should never have gotten, and they couldn't afford their mortgage, and they were walking away, and houses were coming foreclosed on and bank owned, and it was awful. And I remember the day Lehman Brothers closed, it was like crickets.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you saw for sale, foreclosed. I mean, it was literally terrifying. Yeah. And I remember because I had just bought my house a year before that, and I saw my house drop, and TMI, but then I got divorced and I bought my ex-husband out of my house. So all of a sudden I owned my house outright. I had 2 tiny little kids and I saw my home value drop 20%. Like I felt like overnight. And it took years for it to come back. And so housing market crashes are definitely possible.
Yeah, for sure.
But they have to happen. A crash has to happen from an extreme event happening, like what happened with the lending world in 2008.
And I get that a lot of people are still, humans tend to remember the trauma better than the pleasure, right? Humans tend to default to like oh my God, I'm scared of this situation because it happened to me. Like for instance, when you have a 4-year-old and a dog nips them on the hand, they hate dogs forever.
Yeah.
Right. And I understand. I get it. You had a bad experience. And so I'm not surprised to see young people. When I say young people, I mean millennials and even into Gen X go, I remember what my parents went through, or I remember what it was like you do. I remember what it was, and it was terrible. And that's going to be how my brain defaults to whenever there's talk of potential housing stuff. And I get why people go, oh, look at the run up in prices. It's so similar to 2008. However,
but
that's a little bit of bias showing, right? It's a little bit of recency bias because that's the most recent housing crash we've had. Our brains are trained to go, it's happening again. See? And in reality, it's not shaping up to be that this time. Will there be markets where the values of properties go down? Absolutely.
Yeah,
for sure. There will be. Will there be a nationwide crash of 20 to 30%? No.
So I hear what you're saying, and I agree that the memory of trauma is definitely powerful, and the memory of anything negative is even not memory, just even current day. Somebody can say 25 nice things to me, I hear one negative thing, and I'm like, oh my God, everyone hates me. So as I totally understand what you're saying. That being said, I also believe that was based on certain things happening that were illegal, that were faulty, that were. I mean, it's documented. You can see why it happened. Whereas, and then so when the pandemic happened, which once again, we hadn't had a pandemic in a gazillion years, it was scary. You don't know what's going to happen. You have a pandemic. So I definitely understand the fear 4 years ago when the pandemic first happened. And like I said, for those first couple of months, all of us were speculating.
Nobody knew. Nobody knew what was going to happen.
But very shortly, the housing market recovered, and it's kind of gone crazy with the housing pandemic boom. So it went crazy for a while. And then the federal government stepped in and, as much as they stimulated the economy in 2020 and they gave out a lot of money and they reduced all the interest rates, they then manipulated the economy again and made money more expensive because because people had money. So then they were spending it. And so then inflation got mad, the whole economics of it. And so money got more expensive. And when money gets more expensive, not as many people will buy. So housing prices tend to soften. And that's what's happening. And I think there is a correction. And on certain markets, they got really oversaturated and overvalued, like the Boise's and the Austins. And, those markets probably will suffer more because their local incomes will not support those escalated housing prices.
Right. You're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. Those pandemic boom towns like your Boise's, like your Austins, like your areas in Florida, absolutely are very ripe for a potential correction for sure.
David says, I'm still waiting for the 2021 crash. Well, you don't need to wait any longer. It's not happening.
David, according to the Crash Bros, it's right around the corner. Just keep waiting. Wait 6 more months. And then after that, wait 6 more months. And then wait 6 more months. It's coming. Don't worry.
Jessica, if the silver tsunami, I'm going to try to read my glasses. It's not going to happen. If the silver tsunami is real, can you read it, Joe?
If the silver tsunami is real, I don't think it would materialize until around 2034 based on demographic ages.
So we talked about this. I talked about the silver tsunami. I think it was last week. Sorry, I didn't mean to delete that. This is why I should wear glasses. Once again, a tsunami predicates that a lot's going to happen at one time. And the idea that every baby boomer will all of a sudden vacate their home, whether it's going into retirement home or dying or something else at one time, and creating all this inventory without any demand from younger people, other people, moving up people, moving down people, to create a housing market crash seems very unlikely. Could it happen? Sure. If everything happened exactly like that, if all these people at one time vacated their properties for the reasons I mentioned, and all these people decided, I don't want to ever buy a house, and all of a sudden you had all this inventory and no buyers, so supply outweighs demand, it's going to change things. But a lot's got to happen for all that math to add up.
Yep. And it's so funny when people talk about the silver tsunami or boomergeddon, as I've also heard it called. It's funny, and you put it perfectly, Caryn. I always think like, okay, do these people that think that the silver tsunami is going to crash the market, do they think that all these boomers are like lining up on a starting line and they're all getting together and they're going, okay, everybody hold, okay, sell.
Right.
Like, do you think they're like, this is a coordinated attack amongst 75-year-old people that are like, okay, everybody wait, we're going to do it at the same time. We're going to sell at the same. It's just not going to happen. And as you mentioned, again, the demand is going to absorb that. And as we also know, people are staying in their homes longer. They're living longer. They're aging in place more. We have more multi-generational living than we've had in the previous decade.
100%.
And all of those reasons are reasons why homes, I believe, are going to start to get passed down. And that's going to probably help negate any type of silver tsunami or boomergeddon. Although I definitely think we are going to see an uptick, as Jessica said. I think there will be an uptick in the next 10 years of boomers finally going, hey, I'm 85 or 90 now, and I can't do this house anymore. And I
think that happens anyway.
Exactly. And it's gonna happen over time. Like I said,
that's the circle of life.
It is, and it will get absorbed because new families will be formed and take their place. It's the circle of life.
Best guess, the stress point would be from reverse mortgages and state LTC programs recouping costs, but that probably would not happen until 2034. You got this, that's in 9 years, I guess. 2034 seems to be this magic number. What is state LTC programs? Do you know, Joe?
I don't know. I'm a loan to something, maybe. I don't know. I'm not. I know what a reverse mortgage is, but I'm not sure what a state LTC program. I'm not familiar with that term.
Yeah, but I mean, reverse mortgage is a whole other hour. We could talk about that, and I'm not going to get into that right now. But it's a good idea to bring someone on and talk about it because there's a lot of pros and cons to them that like this longer discussion. One development we like, the builder, is Horton, which I've read a bunch of nightmares about. Do you have an opinion of them? Horton is not a big builder where I am. I don't know, so I don't really have an opinion about them. I like to base my opinions on experience, whether it's mine or my clients, and they're just not a big builder in my little area. What about you, Joe?
I do have some DR Horton builds. Mostly everything now that they're building is higher density townhomes, so I can't comment on. I don't know what your development is like, Don. I don't know if it's a single family or higher density. I have my own opinion on new builds and home builders today, which I just, you can like what you want. And there's a tushy for every seat, but I wouldn't be caught dead buying any new build, and I'll leave it at that.
I don't have that same opinion. There is a lot of issues that come with them. I actually did a video recently on kind of like what to look out for with new construction and also how to kind of like mitigate the risk by doing certain things. I know some builders around here that do a great product, build a great custom product, and they're really high quality. I also know some other builders around here that have terrible reputations. Just DR Horton's not a big builder around here, at least not in my like little pocket. I'm not saying they're not in Maryland. Oh gosh, I mean, you guys are really tired of me putting my glasses on and off. I should just leave them on, but then I can't really see with them on either. Single family, 2,000 to 3,000 feet, 1.3 acre lots. It's a nice size acreage.
Yeah, and that sounds like a great lot, and that's a good size home. I would be a little bit less concerned about a new build quality when it comes to a community that's a little bit less dense, but still. Go watch Caryn's video about new builds. You just, you need to be cautious about them. Just because it's new doesn't mean there's no issues. And you still certainly need to do your due diligence and have your own representation when working with builders. And
at least around here, if you don't bring that representation with you to the first introduction, the builders will not honor it. They will not pay your buyer's agent, and then you don't want to have that extra cost. So just make sure they're with you at that first meeting. because you need someone looking out for your best interests. I don't care what people are, realtors, and there are a lot of bad realtors out there. I have another video on that too. There's things you shouldn't say to realtors to make sure that you get the best out of them. But, when you've been in the business as long as I am, because apparently I'm very old, you see a lot of stuff. And I've seen a lot of realtors on the other ends of transactions. I've heard stories from my colleagues, and there's a lot to be said for good realtors, and ones that really do look out for your best interests, and ones that can really help you save money and avoid pitfalls and avoid problems and things to look out for. And so even with new construction, I think it's good to have somebody on your side that has experience, has been doing this a while, and that really has your best interest at heart. And hopefully you get the builder to pay them. Joe, I've taken up a lot of your time. Thank you so much. This is my last live stream of 2024. I'm taking December off. I got my kids home, and then we got some stuff planned in December. I'm going to see my parents in Florida. So I'm done for the year. If you're watching this on the replay, I'll be back in 2025 if you want me to. If you don't, I won't. And hopefully you'll come back in 2025. It's been a lot of fun. I really love talking to you. Where can people find you? Where can they see your videos? What's your channel name?
Yeah, so if you just search my name at Joe Realtor, right down there in the corner of my picture, you can go to my channel. A lot of my channel, I live stream every week. I normally would live stream tonight at 6:30 Pacific Standard Time, but it's the night before Thanksgiving and I still have a house to clean and things to prepare. So this is my live stream for the day. So thank you, Caryn, for giving me the opportunity to come here. Your community is awesome. Your chat has been phenomenal. Yeah, if you're looking for information about the Southern California area, LA County, or you're interested in doing something out here, you can go to my channel, check me out, contact me, and always happy to talk to people about real estate.
Yeah, well, I love that. And like I said, I lived in LA for 9 years. I don't think we're going back that way. I don't think we're going back out west, but you never know. But hopefully, thanks, Don. Happy holidays too. Hopefully I will see you again on here or on yours anytime in next year. I wish you a very, very happy Thanksgiving. Everybody watching now on the replay, very happy Thanksgiving. And since I will not be back to next year, I wish you a very happy holidays. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. Make it fun, make it joyful, have a good time, be grateful. I'm so grateful to all of you guys for watching. I'm so grateful to you for coming, Joe. Thank you so much.
You.
And yeah, I think that's it. See you later, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a great